What's up guys, welcome back to the TK Tech video, and this is a Samsung Galaxy Tab S6. And you might be familiar with this tablet because actually the first ever video I ever uploaded was this exact tablet, nearly 4 years ago. So in this video we're going to be looking at whether this tablet is still relevant in 2023. We'll be looking at why I bought it initially, the design of it, the performance of it, and how it has stood the test of time, and whether or not actually this is still a valid tablet to buy in 2023. So if you scroll through all my videos, right back to the first one, you'll see that the main reason I bought this tablet was to help with my note-taking while I was at university. Since then, I still use it a lot for note-taking, and I've made a plethora of videos on some note-taking apps. So honestly, I've used this as my main work and media kind of consumption device, and it's really been beaten up, dropped, used and abused a lot, essentially. When this tablet first came out back in 2019, I got it for around 600, well, just I think over 600 pounds, and the keyboard cover set was like 120. So altogether, I think I paid like 750 around there for that price. It was probably comparable to the iPad Air that came out, cheaper than the iPad Pros, but still offered the performance and the capabilities that I wanted. We'll talk about the price of this now towards the end of the video and whether it's still something that anybody should be buying. So the first thing I want to talk about is the design. How does this design compare in 2023? Well, I think Samsung did a really good job when they released this because it was so ahead of its time that, they pushed for really aggressive thin bezels, for rounded corners. They've made it super thin, thinner than a lot of tablets you'd find now. In fact, this tablet was so thin that actually it was prone to a little bend here, and I actually think I snapped the charging port. I mean, the charging port is literally the same thickness as the device, so it's quite a weak point here. It's got 4 speakers, 2 on the bottom with a USB-C port, and then 2 at the top. This actually also has an SD card slot, which meant that you can actually upgrade the storage after buying it if you needed any more, for a relatively affordable price of an SD card. On the back it had 2 cameras that were pretty bad then and are even worse now. They've not stood the test of time, these, but not, it's never really something I use. I've never really taken any pictures with this. And you have a groove here for the pen. Now, unfortunately, this is not the pen that came with it. I broke that pen. This is actually a pen for the one of the Samsung, I think it's a Samsung S21 Ultra phone. I think it had an external pen. I just got that as a replacement. But any Samsung pen actually works with this because it all uses the same Wacom technology. Unfortunately though, it doesn't charge up and it doesn't magnetically stick here anymore. In terms of scuffs and bumps and things like that, I've had the keyboard cover on it for a while, which is this one right here. We're gonna have a chat about that because this was annoying when I bought it and still remains to be so. But essentially, it protected the back, but it didn't protect the sides of the frame. The sides have dealt with, a few scuffs here and there, but overall, it's in very good condition. Alright, so now let's move on to the features of the tablet. What's changed 4 years later? Well, it's still running Android 12, which is an older version of Android, and it's running One UI 4.1.1. Samsung have made some, design and I guess ease of use updates with One UI that this obviously doesn't have, but it still has a lot of the main features. So obviously with a tablet like this, you want to be able to use the real estate, and Samsung do a really good job with multitasking, better than I think other companies do. Apple, for example, it makes it super easy to open it in split screen view. You can pick any app you want to split screen with, even a game. Ooh. And it makes it really easy to adjust the size of the app. You can also do a really cool thing that I've always enjoyed with Samsung, and that's its ability to basically have a window. Often when I'm doing anything and I just want to get something up quickly, usually it's a calculator to be honest, I want to get it up but I don't want to switch an app completely. I'll get it up as a window, do what I want to do and put it away. I can put it away as like this, almost like a floating bubble, and bring it back when I need to, or I can just get rid of it completely. In fact, there's no limit to the amount of windows you can do. So for example, I could open all of these applications as pop-up views, and now all these applications are available to me in their pop-up view. I still use a lot of its S Pen features as well. Unfortunately, this S Pen doesn't have the battery capabilities in anymore, but it still has all the same, pretty much all the same features that I can think of that I got on, for example, my new Samsung Galaxy Fold 5. I'll leave the link to that description below, and actually I'll put it up in the top corner as well. You can see that it'll actually have pretty much all the same features as well. So for example, it's got the magnifying feature and the ability, for example, to quickly translate text. If I just hover over a word, it will translate it for me. In fact, I can even translate full sentences. So a lot of these kind of perks still exist. A lot of them are gimmicks, to be honest, and not much has really changed, I think, from the main kind of features that you'd use from a Samsung tablet. The screen is still an amazing Super AMOLED 10.5-inch, very high resolution display, 2560 by 1600 megapixels. It's got a slightly wide aspect ratio. This is kind of one of the things that was a little bit odd, I found. If you look at it compared to an iPad, it's got a much more square aspect ratio, and that's really good for things like note-taking. The benefit of this wide aspect ratio is split screening, so when you've got two apps running side by side, but also when you're watching any content, because content is usually shot in a wider aspect ratio, so it limits the kind of black bars that you get at the top and bottom. But what it does mean is that when it comes to note-taking, especially in portrait mode, this is very cumbersome. This is way too narrow. I often have to rotate it in the landscape mode just to give myself that extra real estate if I wanted to write anything on the side like that. While talking about note-taking, I should just touch upon the S Pen again. This is obviously not the S Pen that came with it, but like I said, Samsung pretty much uses the same technology for all their S Pens. So they all have very good pressure control. So, you know, if I brush lightly versus if I brush really hard. It also, for example, identifies tilt. So like with a pencil, if you write straight on, it'll be quite thin, but if you tilt it, it'll be quite thick. The AMOLED display, the accuracy of the Wacom technology that they use, the high resolution of the display makes note-taking, drawing, doodling, anything you want to do with the S Pen on this tablet just as enjoyable today as it was 4 years ago. One of the main features I think that Samsung have really added that I think is, you know, not a gimmick and it's actually quite useful, that I couldn't figure out how to do actually on this tablet. I think it's just a bit too old now, is the multi-window feature. Essentially, that lets you connect this to another Samsung device, like a Samsung laptop or a phone or even another Samsung tablet, and you can essentially just smoothly move between the two devices, for example, with an external mouse, and drag and drop files, pictures. Makes it really easy to share files that way. That is a feature that I would like to have. Another reason I chose the Samsung tablet over something like an iPad actually was for something called DeX. Now, DeX is essentially Samsung's way of making their tablets a bit more laptop-like, shall we say. So when you activate DeX, it puts it into this kind of very familiar desktop kind of interface. This is the kind of interface where you can open up apps, for example, and they'll open up automatically in this multi-window kind of view. Obviously, it's still touchscreen, so you still have the ease of being able to drag and drop things around. You can split screen easily, just kind of like how you would do on Windows laptop, really. And when it comes to something like DeX, there's nothing really on the market that can compare. Apple, you know, they have their keyboard cover, but it doesn't make the iPad software adapt or change in a way that makes you know, easier to use the keyboard or gives you more functionality when using the keyboard. So that is something that DeX has. That's something that DeX has always been really good at. Obviously, it's still running Android, so you're not running, for example, Microsoft's full version of their apps. But the good thing about Android is that it has a very comprehensive file management system, so you can easily find access and you can use your files and transfer and open them similarly how you would do on a desktop PC. I've used DeX a lot, but unfortunately I've been limited due to the size of this tablet. Now, this is one of the downsides. There was a downside when I bought it, and it's still very much of a downside now because I've got big hands. This is a small keyboard. As much as I wanted to use DeX, I just found typing on this keyboard way too cramped. It just wasn't really that comfortable to use. I tried to use it a lot initially. Over time, I just started using it less and less and less. The keyboard is way too small. And the issue is because when the Tablet 6 came out, there was no size options. There was only the Tablet 6. and later came the Tab S6 Lite or FE. Ever since then, there's always been a Plus or an Ultra option. In fact, Samsung make one of the biggest tablets you can buy now with the Samsung Tab S9 Ultra. I think if you're going to get the keyboard, if you want that functionality to be able to switch into laptop mode, I would avoid getting anything this size. Another issue I had with the keyboard was, well, we'll talk about the good thing about it. The good thing about Samsung keyboard is that they come in, and they still make it like this, they come in these two-piece design. What that means is that you can have the back panel, which has the hinge, and actually it houses the pen holder to keep it secure, and that's separate to the keyboard. So when you're not using the keyboard, you can still take it off and use the functionality of the stand. As you can see, probably about a month after getting this, it lost its kind of magneticness / adhesiveness and ended up using double-sided sticky tape. Now that double-sided sticky tape has lasted up until now. I basically took it off with a lot of struggle just for this video, but Samsung have updated the design of these. They make it with really strong magnets now. From the Tab S7 onwards, you wouldn't have a problem with the keyboard cover in terms of its stickiness, but for this model, it was just horrendous. Okay, so this tablet is running the Samsung Snapdragon 855 processor. The specific model is a 128 gigabyte storage and 6 gigabytes of RAM. 6 gigabytes of RAM 2023 is considered quite low. I think my phone has got like 12 gigabytes of RAM, and obviously the processor, Snapdragon have recently just released their newest processors, which will be, will absolutely obliterate anything that this tablet can do. It still begs the question. It's the same question that I had in 2019 or 2020 whenever I made this the original video. Same question that I have now is, do you need all of that power? Do you need to have that extra additional power? Are you going to use it? Are you going to make the most of it? I still very much multitask on this. I still game on this. I don't do anything more intensive than that. I'm not really video editing on my tablet. I don't really have any graphic design kind of applications that I do, but the most graphical intensive games that I do play, such as, for example, let's say Call of Duty, do still run really well on this tablet. As you can see, it runs smoothly. There are no drop of frames. It's not lagging at all. Maybe if you buy a newer tablet, you'll be able to play with a higher resolution, but for a mobile experience, actually, its performance hasn't really dipped over the 4 years, not that I've noticed at least, and actually it's still very, very capable of playing modern games in 2023. I just want to quickly touch upon the battery life of this device now, after having it for 4 years, because obviously the battery is one of the first things that kind of dies with any device really. So if you go into battery, you can see that it still lasts on average at least 2 days, which is great. And I think one of the reasons to that is because I've turned on the battery protecting settings. So basically what that setting does here in protect the battery is where it kind of limits you to charge it to 85%. So I've never really charged it to 100%. It's always only charged up to a maximum of 85%. Now in a tablet, because the battery is so large, that doesn't really matter, because even 85% charge is still going to last you the whole day at the very least. So is this a tablet that anyone would want to buy now? Well, if you go to Amazon, you can get this for just over £300, renewed, whatever that means. If you want to get it used, you can get it for less than £300. It's actually quite difficult to find on the listings. What you see a lot of is a Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 Lite, which is going for slightly cheaper, and it seems you can still get that one brand new. So these are actually comparable to the price of the 9th generation iPad Air that Apple still sell, that looks way, way out of date now. So if the choice is between those two, then maybe this is not a bad shout. However, the issue I had with this is the screen size. Maybe if you got more petite hands than mine, it'll be okay. But definitely, if you're ever thinking of getting a keyboard, then this isn't the size I would go for. I would probably at least upgrade to the Tab S7 Plus if you're looking for a more affordable tablet with good performance and a keyboard cover. That one's going for less than £500 on Amazon. Now, if you wanted to get one of the newer processors, newest technology from Samsung with the newer software, then I'd go for the Tab S9 FE, which Samsung have just released. And that's actually just over £500. I think definitely if you can spend the extra money, then this will give you a modern 2023 tablet. Will give you the new One UI. It'll give you the new Android, and like all Samsung tablets, it comes with the S Pen. Now, am I going to upgrade my tablet? Well, I've already splashed out on the Galaxy Fold 5. that wasn't cheap at all, and that's giving me that kind of tablet experience in my pocket. So actually I find I'm using this less and less, especially because now that I've left uni, I'm not making as many notes as I used to. So I'm probably not going to upgrade for now. I'll stick with this, but when I do upgrade, I'm definitely going to go for something bigger. To me, that is the only reason why I would upgrade. Everything about this device is actually still very, very much usable in 2023. All right, well, it was nice coming back to this tablet, bringing it back full circle. First video I made was about it, and now, nearly 4 years later, we're making another one. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope you find it useful. Also, let me know if any of you are still actually interested in buying this tablet in 2023, and give me your reasons and why you'd go for this rather than upgrading to something else. Alright, that's it from me, guys. I'll see you on the next TK Tech video.